You always make things awkward, Dad. Could you just not talk so much? That's what my daughter said to me, in front of her friends, in the middle of dinner, while the waiter stood there waiting to take our orders. My name is David Cole, 71, from Seattle, Washington. I've been called many things in my life: carpenter, husband, father. But that night, I was just an inconvenience. Emily sat across from me in a navy dress that looked expensive and proper, the kind her mother would have loved. She was hosting a dinner for her colleagues from the firm, something about a promotion. I wasn't sure why she'd invited me, maybe to appear family-oriented. But once I arrived, I could tell she regretted it. Her friends laughed easily, sipping wine and telling stories I didn't understand, about clients, contracts, and brands. I tried to follow along, smiling when it seemed right. When one of them asked what I did before retirement, I said simply, I ran a small woodworking shop. Emily's smile tightened. He's being modest, she said, her tone a little too quick. It was just a little neighborhood place. My dad liked to tinker with furniture. Tinker? That word stung more than I expected. I nodded politely. Well, I built things that lasted. Tables, chairs, cribs, even a few boats. Her friends smiled awkwardly, and one of them said, That's charming. I could feel Emily's discomfort across the table. She shifted the conversation back to her firm, her clients, her success. I stayed quiet, letting her shine. That's what fathers are supposed to do. Let their daughters outgrow their shadows. But then the waiter came to clear the plates, and he smiled at me. Your daughter looks just like you, sir. Emily's laugh was sharp. Oh no, she got Mom's genes, thank God. Her friends chuckled, thinking it was harmless humor. But I saw the flicker in her eyes. She meant it. I let out a soft laugh to ease the moment. She got the best of both of us. No one replied. Conversation moved on, but my appetite was gone. I kept glancing at the rain starting to fall against the window, wondering how early I could leave without embarrassing her again. When the check came, Emily's hand darted toward it, but I stopped her gently. Let me. She rolled her eyes. Dad, you don't have to. It's my event. I handed my card to the waiter before she could argue. I know, but I'd like to. Her friend smiled, the polite kind, the kind people give out of pity. She didn't look at me again while they talked about after-dinner drinks. When they stood to leave, she kissed my cheek quickly, already halfway turned toward the door. Drive safe, okay? She said. I'll walk, I replied. It's not far. Dad, it's raining. I smiled. I know. I stepped out into the cold drizzle, pulling my coat tight. The restaurant lights blurred through the rain, warm and distant. I walked slowly, feeling each drop soak into my sleeves. Behind me, her laughter echoed faintly, bright, careless, fading with distance. Halfway home, I realized I'd left my umbrella by the table, the one Grace, my late wife, had given me on our last anniversary. I stopped under a streetlight, watching the rain run down my hands. For some reason, I didn't turn back. That night, I walked the whole way home in the rain, and for the first time in years, I didn't hurry. The silence felt cleaner than her apology ever could have. The house was quiet when I came home that night. Too quiet. The kind of silence that follows you like a shadow. I hung my coat by the door, still dripping with rain, and walked into the kitchen. The clock on the wall ticked steadily, but every second felt like a reminder that time was passing without purpose. I made myself a cup of tea, though I didn't drink it. The steam curled upward and vanished before I could even take a sip. I sat at the small wooden table, the one I built 30 years ago. It used to be where Emily did her homework, where Grace would hum while stirring soup, and where laughter was as common as breathing. Now it was just a piece of furniture, a seat for one. I stared at the empty chair across from me, the one Emily used to sit in with her feet swinging beneath her. I could still see her, 8 years old, cheeks full of freckles, telling me stories about her imaginary kingdom. Back then, she thought I was a hero. She once told me, "Dad, you make things that never break." I guess she didn't realize that people do. The rain hadn't stopped. It tapped gently against the kitchen window, the rhythm almost comforting. I stood up and walked into the living room. The walls were lined with photos, birthdays, holidays, and the last family picture before Grace got sick. In the center of them all was one I couldn't look at for long. Emily at her first recital, holding her tiny violin, eyes bright with pride. Grace stood beside her, smiling, her arm around our daughter. I remembered that night vividly. Grace whispered to me, "Promise me you'll always remind her where she comes from, even if she forgets." And I did promise. I just didn't know it would ever come to this, to being the man she apologizes for in front of strangers. I walked over to the old record player and set a vinyl on it, Grace's favorite jazz record. The soft trumpet filled the room, warm and slow, and for a moment, it felt like she was still here. I whispered to the photograph, "She's grown, Grace. She's successful. But she's forgetting you." The room felt smaller after I said it. I went to my desk, opened the drawer, and pulled out a small wooden box. Inside was a collection of things I couldn't throw away. Grace's locket, Emily's childhood drawings, and a folded note I hadn't read in years. The handwriting was unmistakable. Grace's. I'd found it tucked into her violin case after the funeral. The envelope had my name on it, but I never opened it. Maybe I wasn't ready to know what her last words would ask of me. I ran my thumb across the crease of the envelope and set it down beside me. I told myself I'd read it tomorrow. But I said that yesterday too. The rain grew louder outside, as if the sky was trying to finish a sentence I didn't want to hear. The tea had gone cold. The clock kept ticking. And the seat across from me stayed empty. I didn't sleep much that night. I kept hearing her voice, Grace's voice, soft and steady in my mind. She always had a way of making hard truths sound like comfort. When I woke, the rain had stopped. The world outside my window looked washed clean, but inside it still felt heavy. I sat with my coffee, staring at that unopened envelope on the table. It had been there since last night, since the funeral, if I was being honest with myself. I'd moved it from drawer to drawer for years, never daring to read it. I thought back to the day she made me promise. Grace was in the hospital, the sunlight thin across her blanket. Emily had just turned 20 and was away at college. Grace smiled at me, even then, tired, but still graceful, still strong. "Promise me, David," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. "Promise me you'll protect her heart, not just her life. Don't let her forget what matters." "I promise," I told her, gripping her hand like it was the last solid thing in the world. And it was. After she passed, I buried myself in work. My shop became my sanctuary. Every chair I built, every table I carved, it was all an attempt to fill the silence she left behind. But Emily, she was different. She threw herself into the world like she was running from something. She became ambitious, smart, unstoppable. I was proud of her. Still am. But somewhere between promotions and polished dinners, she began to shed pieces of who she used to be. When she got her first real job, she stopped visiting as much. When she bought her first house, she said, "It's not really your style, Dad." When she started bringing friends around, she laughed a little too hard at the wrong things, jokes about old-fashioned parents and small-town upbringings. I never said anything. I thought patience was the right way to love her. The day she told me I embarrassed her, I finally understood what Grace had feared, that Emily might forget not just us, but herself. I picked up the envelope again, holding it between my hands. The paper was soft from age. Inside, I could feel something, more than just a letter. A faint shape, flat, maybe another piece of paper. But I couldn't open it, not yet. Instead, I walked to the small cabinet in the corner of the living room. Inside were the things that connected us. Grace's locket, Emily's recital ribbons, a photo of the three of us laughing in the backyard. And behind them all, brochure I hadn't looked at in years, the Grace Cole Music Fund. After Grace passed, I started it in her memory, a small charity that gave free instruments to underprivileged kids. I didn't tell Emily. She was too busy then, too far away. It was my quiet way of keeping Grace alive. Every year, I donated a portion of my savings to it. Every year, I visited the little community center where children practiced under her name. Grace would have liked that. I looked back at the letter. "Not yet," I whispered. But soon. Outside, the rain had started again. Softer this time, like it didn't want to wake anyone. The sound reminded me of that dinner, the laughter, the way Emily looked past me, the sting that followed. I had promised Grace I'd protect her heart. Maybe keeping this letter hidden was part of that. Or maybe it was time to finally let Grace speak for herself. The house seemed to wait with me for the answer. The next morning, sunlight slipped through the curtains. Soft, pale. The kind of light that makes old things look gentle. I sat at the kitchen table again, the envelope in front of me. It looked smaller now, thinner somehow, as if all these years had pressed its edges down. I don't know why I finally decided to open it that day. Maybe it was the silence. Maybe it was the way the rain had stopped, leaving the world too still to ignore. Or maybe I was just tired of pretending I didn't need to hear her voice again. I slid my thumb under the flap. The paper gave way easily, as though it had been waiting for me. Inside was a single folded page, and as I unfolded it, I caught the faint scent of Grace's perfume. Lavender and cedarwood. My throat tightened. Her handwriting was steady, graceful, the same way she used to sign Emily's birthday cards. "David, if you're reading this, it means you've kept your promise longer than I could have hoped." I paused, breathing through the ache in my chest. I worry about our girl. You know how bright she is, how determined. But she lives in a world that rewards pride more than kindness. One day she might forget that love isn't something you prove, it's something you practice. I stared at those words for a long time. If that happens, don't lecture her. Don't chase her. Show her quietly what grace looks like. Remind her through who you are, not what you say. The irony of her name wasn't lost on me. Grace had always been the calm after every storm. Even her last request carried that same stillness, no anger, no guilt. Just a quiet faith that I'd understand. At the bottom of the page, there was a smaller note written in her rushed handwriting, as if she'd added it at the last moment. "I've enclosed something to help you keep my promise. When the time is right, you'll know." I looked inside the envelope again and found a folded pamphlet, yellowed and slightly torn at the edges. The Grace Cole Music Fund. I hadn't seen one of these in years. It was one of the first printed after she passed. The program that started it all. On the back was a quote she loved. "We rise by lifting others." For the first time in a long while, I smiled. I traced her handwriting with my finger and whispered, "You still know how to find me, don't you?" I sat there for a long time, the house utterly still except for the clock ticking softly in the corner. When I finally folded the letter again, I didn't put it back in the drawer. I placed it on the table, where I could see it every morning. A small reminder that silence doesn't mean weakness. Grace had given me a path, not a loud one, not a proud one, just a quiet, steady one. And though she was gone, her words still worked their way through me. Patient, persistent, alive. Later that day, the phone rang. It was Emily. "Hey, Dad," she said, her voice distant, rushed. "We're hosting a charity dinner next week. You should come. It's for a music foundation my firm sponsors. You'll like it. It's classy." I felt something shift in my chest. "What's it called?" I asked. "The Grace Cole Music Fund," she said without thinking. For a second, I couldn't speak. She sighed. "Dad, you still there?" "Yes," I said softly. "I'll be there." The room fell silent after the call ended, but inside me, something long asleep had started to wake. The following week, I ironed my only good shirt, the same one I wore to Emily's graduation, and before that, to Grace's funeral. Funny how the same clothes can hold both joy and grief. The charity dinner was at a downtown hotel. I arrived early, standing under the tall chandelier that made everyone look like they belonged to a higher world. The kind of place Grace would have found too fancy, and I too foreign. I saw Emily before she saw me. She was radiant, confident, surrounded by people who laughed too loudly and spoke too smoothly. She moved among them like she'd always belonged there. When she spotted me, her expression flickered just for a second, between surprise and something like embarrassment. Then she smiled and waved me over. "Dad, you made it," she said, kissing my cheek quickly. Her perfume was strong, expensive. "I didn't think you'd actually come." "I wouldn't miss it," I said. She laughed nervously. "I'm glad. Just try to relax, okay? The people here can be a little uptight." I smiled faintly. "I'll do my best." We sat at a round table with her colleagues, polished, successful, dressed like magazine pages. They smiled politely when Emily introduced me. "This is my father, David," she said. "He used to have a small workshop, very hands-on guy." There was that word again. Small. One man nodded. "Ah, so you're where she gets her work ethic." Emily laughed quickly. "Maybe. I'm more spreadsheets than sawdust, though." The table chuckled. I smiled too, because sometimes love means pretending you don't feel the sting. Dinner was a blur. Speeches, wine, polite laughter. I kept thinking about Grace's letter, about her words. Don't chase her. Show her. Then the lights dimmed, and the host walked on stage. "Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for joining us tonight as we celebrate a decade of music and opportunity through the Grace Cole Music Fund." The applause that followed was thunderous. Emily clapped too, at first without thinking, then suddenly stopped. Her head turned toward the stage, eyes narrowing. The host continued. "Founded in memory of Grace Cole by her husband David Cole, this fund has given hundreds of children access to music education." The room grew quiet. I felt every eye shift toward me. Emily froze. Her lips parted slightly, but no words came. The host smiled warmly. "Mr. Cole, we'd like to thank you for your continued support and dedication all these years." I nodded politely, staying seated. My heart beat steady, but my hands trembled under the table. Emily whispered, "Dad, what is this?" I looked at her. "It's your mother's dream," I said softly. "You're just seeing it for the first time." The host went on, "Please enjoy this short video highlighting the Foundation's journey." The screen came alive with photos. Grace teaching children in a tiny community hall, me building wooden violin stands, kids performing at small concerts. Then a line appeared. "Established with love by David Cole in honor of his wife, Grace." Emily's friends leaned closer, whispering in surprise. One of them murmured, "That's your dad?" She didn't answer. When the lights came back on, she stared at her plate, face pale, hands trembling slightly in her lap. I reached for my glass of water, pretending not to notice. The applause began again, polite, restrained. When it ended, I stood quietly. "I think I'll get some air," I said. Emily finally looked up at me. "Dad, wait." I smiled gently. "Enjoy the rest of your evening." Then I walked out through the side door into the night. The air outside was cool, sharp with drizzle. It wasn't quite rain, not yet, just enough to make the city lights shimmer on the pavement. Behind me, through the glass, I could still see her standing there, frozen between pride and shame. For the first time in a long while, I didn't feel small. I stood under the hotel awning, watching the drizzle turn into rain. The city hummed softly around me. Cars passing, laughter spilling from the open doors of the ballroom, umbrellas blooming like flowers along the sidewalk. I didn't move for a while. The rain always had a way of settling me. Grace used to say it washed the noise off the world. She wasn't wrong. I was about to leave when I heard footsteps behind me. "Dad." Emily's voice, small now, stripped of its polish. I turned. She was standing just outside the doorway, her hair damp, her makeup smudged slightly at the corners. The woman who'd commanded a room 10 minutes ago suddenly looked like a girl again. My girl. "Why didn't you tell me?" she asked, her voice trembling between anger and disbelief. "All these years. Why didn't you say anything?" I met her eyes. "Would you have listened if I did?" She blinked, caught off guard. "That's not fair." "No," I said quietly. "But it's true." She shook her head, tears catching in the rain. "You let me believe I was helping you, inviting you to dinners, giving you money for the house. You let me." "I didn't let you," I interrupted gently. "I wanted you to feel like you were giving something back. Parents. We don't need repayment, Emily, just presents." Her lip quivered. "You made me look foolish in front of everyone." I took a step closer. "No, sweetheart. You made yourself small in front of them. You forgot who you are." She swallowed hard, her shoulders shaking. Mom's name, her face, everyone saw. "They were meant to," I said softly. "She built this dream with me. I just kept it alive." The rain came harder, tapping against the concrete like a quiet applause. For a long moment, we stood there, silent except for the sound of it. Then Emily whispered, "I thought you were embarrassed of me. That's why you never said much about Mom's death, about the shop, about anything." I smiled sadly. "I was never embarrassed of you. I was just giving you space to become who you needed to be. I hoped one day you'd look back and see that the foundation under your feet was built by love, not shame." Her tears finally broke free. She covered her mouth, shoulders trembling. "God, Dad, I've been so cruel to you." I shook my head. "No, you've been busy surviving the world. It's easy to forget where your warmth came from when you're trying to prove you can stand in the cold." She reached into her bag and pulled out something small. My umbrella. The same one I'd left at the restaurant that night. She must have picked it up. "I kept this," she said quietly. "I was going to return it last week, but I didn't know how." I took it from her hands. The handle was worn smooth, the brass tip still dented from the years Grace used it. I smiled faintly. "Looks like it still works." She let out a shaky laugh. "So do you, apparently." I looked at her. Really looked. She wasn't the little girl who begged for bedtime stories or the proud woman who kept me at arm's length. She was something in between. Broken open, but healing. I opened the umbrella, holding it above both of us. "Come on," I said. "Let's walk." We walked down the street in silence, the city lights painting ripples across the puddles. She slipped her arm through mine, just like she used to when she was small. Halfway down the block, she said softly, "I want to help with the fund. I want to be part of it." I nodded. "Then do it for her. For Grace. And for yourself." She pressed her head against my shoulder. "I'm sorry, Dad." "I know," I said. "That's enough." We walked until the hotel disappeared behind us, the sound of laughter replaced by the steady rhythm of rain. We didn't talk much on the walk back. The rain had eased to a mist, and the city felt quieter than usual, like it too was listening. Emily held onto my arm, the way she did as a child when she was afraid of thunder. I didn't say anything. Sometimes silence does more work than words ever could. When we reached my street, she hesitated. "Can I come in?" she asked softly. I nodded, unlocking the door. The house smelled faintly of cedar and coffee. Old comforts that had outlived their purpose. She stepped inside slowly, looking around at the framed photos, the worn furniture, the life she'd left behind. Her eyes landed on one picture near the mantel. Grace holding baby Emily in the backyard, sunlight spilling across both their faces. She walked closer, brushing her thumb over the glass. "I barely remember this day," she whispered. "I do," I said. "You wouldn't stop crying until your mother let you hold the garden hose. You sprayed us both, then laughed like it was the best thing in the world." She smiled faintly, then turned toward me. "How did you live in this house alone all these years?" "I wasn't alone," I said quietly. "You and your mother are everywhere here. I just learned to live with the echoes." She sank into the old couch, the same one she used to jump on while Grace scolded her. "Dad, I thought moving on meant moving away. I thought success would make me feel complete." I sat across from her. "And did it?" Her voice cracked. No, it just made the silence louder. For a moment, the air between us felt fragile, like a bridge rebuilt from splintered wood. She looked up at me, tears threatening to fall again. "Do you hate me for how I treated you?" I shook my head. "No, Emily. I don't hate you. I pity the version of you who thought love was something you had to earn by leaving." She covered her mouth, sobbing quietly. "You waited for me. All those years." I leaned forward, resting my elbows on my knees. "Every father waits, sweetheart. Some of us wait in silence, some in prayer, and some in rain." She looked up, eyes red, voice trembling. "Can I start over?" I smiled faintly. "You already have." The clock ticked softly on the wall. Outside, the rain had stopped completely. The air smelled clean again, like forgiveness. She stayed that night, fell asleep on the same couch she used to nap on after school. I stood there for a long time, watching her breathe, her face peaceful in a way I hadn't seen in years. And for the first time in a very long while, I felt something settle inside me. Not closure, not pride, just peace. I whispered into the quiet, "Thank you, Grace. You were right." The house exhaled with me. She left early the next morning. I heard the soft click of the front door and the rustle of her car pulling away. But for once, it didn't hurt. There was no anger, no hollow echo of abandonment, just quiet understanding. The sunlight crept across the living room floor, touching the corner of the photo frames. Grace, Emily, me. 3 lives caught in a single frozen smile. I sat on the couch where Emily had slept, her blanket still folded neatly beside me. She'd left a note on the coffee table, just 2 words. "See you." Not goodbye, not sorry, just see you. It was enough. I made coffee the way I used to. 2 cups, 1 for me and 1 for Grace. The habit never really left. As the steam rose, I caught my reflection in the kitchen window. Older, slower, a little lonelier, but somehow lighter. For years, I thought forgiveness was something you gave once. Now I know it's something you practice every day, quietly, like breathing. Later that afternoon, I went back to the foundation office, the one I hadn't visited in months. The receptionist smiled when she saw me. "Mr. Cole, your daughter dropped off some paperwork this morning," she said. I nodded slowly. "She did?" "Yes," she said. "She asked if she could volunteer at the next student concert. Said she wanted to understand what her mother loved so much." I stood there, speechless for a moment. Then I smiled. Tell her she's already part of it. That night, I sat on the porch with the porch light still burning. The same light I used to leave on for her, even when she never came. The same one that had stayed lit through years of waiting. But tonight, it didn't feel like waiting anymore. I looked up at the sky. Cloudless, finally. "Grace," I said softly, "she's coming home. Slowly, but she's coming." The wind moved through the trees, almost like a reply. And now sitting here, telling you this story, I find myself at a crossroads I never expected. I gave my daughter everything, my time, my work, my patience, my silence. You heard how she treated me, and you saw what came of it. So tell me, what should I do now? Should I keep my distance and protect what peace I've found? Should I forgive her completely and start again? Or should I let her learn, slowly, what it means to rebuild what she broke? Because no matter what she's done, I still love her.